All right, guys, so enough theory and enough talking about all this product stuff. Let's get in the trenches using the golfer case study and really step through what it takes through this next step of the product pipeline and product road mapping on how you can really hone in and determine which ideas you want to pursue. So going back a couple stages, this is just, again, the product idea from the golf archetype that we've developed across all of these different product ideation methods. And what I've basically done is there's about 80 of these ideas that we've kind of highlighted in yellow, the ones I'm like, you know what, there might be something here. It's either a unique idea, I think it can kind of really stand out on Amazon, or I've got just some compelling thoughts on how we could differentiate it. So I've highlighted those in yellow from those 80 ideas. We've honed this down to 11. And then we're going to actually dial it down even more and pick a handful of ideas that we're really going to pursue to the product development and sourcing process and stage. So what I've done here is I've taken these highlighted ideas and I put them into the stage 1 filter SOP. You're going to have access to the sheet so you can kind of do it on your own, but I wanted to run down exactly what we did here in this particular stage. So the SOP is basically just to take the potential products that have unique concepts that you want to pursue more from that product ideation exercise, and you're going to want to put them into this section. So I basically just copy them in here. So I've got all the details as they came from that product sheet. I can collapse that, and then it's really this column H through O that we're going to go through for each one of these individual ideas and see if it passes the stage 1 check. So after we've done that, we're going to just conduct some risk checks. This is looking at patents, restricted categories, disproportionate sales, high revenue, low reviews markets, lack of demand, like all those things we talked about in the risk and red flag section. We're going to run each of these ideas through that and just identify if there's any risks we need to be aware of. We're going to look at the differentiation concepts that we have for this particular product and just say, hey, is that compelling or not? In addition, we're also going to look at visual differentiation. So not only what are the differentiation ideas, but can we visually represent that ideally in the listing image to make that compelling and clickable on Amazon? We're then going to pull the monthly revenue from Amazon itself and just kind of figuring out where do we think our product is going to land on that front page and where do we think our revenue rate is going to be. And we're going to use that to determine if we can actually afford the product. And then we're going to take all that criteria and basically eliminate the ones, or at least parking lot the ones that don't make sense for us to pursue right now. Either the differentiation isn't good enough, the answering the customer why is not there, it's not visually differentiatable, or we just simply don't have the budget to pursue that particular idea. So what I've basically done here is I've thrown these ideas in here. Again, there's 11 of them, and I've gone through all of this behind the scenes. So this is another activity that, again, probably took, 3-4 hours, something like that. Again, use a lot of mental energy for this. If you're tired, if you're worn out, if you're burnt out, this is not the time to conduct this. You want to do this with fresh eyes and a fresh mind so you're making the appropriate decisions and assessment. So I've done this behind the scenes and kind of run through all of this. And really, I've picked 3 products out of this analysis that we can kind of take through the additional stages beyond stage 1. But I'll at least kind of talk about those 3 products here right now. So the first product that I'm looking at that could be pretty interesting is the travel hard case, which basically when you're golfing and you go on an airplane, there's either a soft shell or a hard case that you can kind of take your clubs on an airplane and check your baggage and so it doesn't get damaged. So that's when we selected. Part of the reason I selected that is it's like a slightly higher monthly revenue level. So we'll go through that one. The next is the golf push cart, and there's really a couple ideas that I've honed in on here that we will get into later on. Again, that's kind of like a middle of the road, 40-ish K, 30, 40K range we think that one's going to land at. And then for those on a budget, we also found impact tape through the ideas, and that's one that we're going to kind of pursue just because it's a lower budget amount that gives us kind of a different angle to look at. So let's run through these right now so you can kind of just see how the stage 1 filtering process works in practice. We'll start here with this golf travel cases example. Let's just go over to Amazon really quick so you guys can see what this looks like. So the golf travel market, the more popular ones in the space are these soft shell ones. So this is kind of the simple, kind of lower cost soft shell one. And then there's other soft shell ones that have the wheels that are a little bit more expensive. And then there's the hard case ones that come from these bigger brands. Samsonite's one of them here, and it's definitely higher dollar. You can see another soft shell one with wheels here. There's a couple more hard case ones. So this is just kind of a view of the general market. If I go up here to Helium 10's Chrome extension, I like to get kind of just a good scan of the market. Again, this is coming off of summer, so golf is definitely much more of a summer sport, although people will travel in the fall and winter months to warmer destinations to golf. But you can see that the average revenue for this market's about $35,000. But if you look at some of these ones that are doing well, so this is kind of the Alpha Dog, the Alpha Ace, it's doing about $168,000. These hard case ones here are doing $30,000 to $46,000. There's one of them here that's doing $90,000. And then the rest of these guys are kind of doing like 15 to 30, depending. Obviously, there's some on the lower end of that. There's some a little bit more. So it's just kind of a view of the market, as you can see there. So really, we double checked for patents and other risk things. Didn't see any of that. So for right now, we've got a green light on the risk check. And then in terms of differentiation, there's kind of a couple angles that we have here. One is you could go for the padded flexible canvas version and do some differentiation on that one. And maybe do something with like the wheels, have a golf brand. There's really not a whole lot of golf brands on here. And obviously we're a golf centric brand. So that's one way to do it. The other idea that we have for the hard shell is to maybe split it in two and make it like a foldable one. So it's a little bit smaller. And then again, wrapping in that golf branding and understanding the golf customer, which a lot of these ones tend not to do. So there's a couple of differentiation concepts. So in terms of why would a customer buy this, we're looking at kind of doing a price optimized, size optimized hard shell as one potential idea. So if I can get it for cheaper and the quality's there and it's a branded golf brand and the aesthetic is there, that could be pretty compelling for the customer. Some visual differentiation, again, having a golf brand I think matters. Having really good wheels that are kind of noted there to make it easier to transport. And then just having that split feature where we can actually separate and store the hard shell case in a more compact way. In terms of monthly revenue, we're estimating $60,000. Again, we think that we can take a hefty chunk out of these big dogs that are doing $80,000, $90,000 in the hard shell case and maybe steal some of that soft shell market where there's a lot of higher dollar ones as well. Maybe it does $45,000, maybe it does $60,000. At this point, it's somewhat splitting hairs. But based on that monthly revenue estimate, we can kind of determine what kind of budget would be needed for a product like this in the golf travel case category. So if we go back to this budget checker and just throw in $60,000, come down here, we can kind of just see in that risk averse average aggressive case how much cash we need. And again, looking at the stage 1 filter, we're basically putting in that budget number there. Moving on to the push cart, there's two different ideas we're kind of toggling with here. One is this concept of a monster truck push carrier. So let's just go ahead and put the golf push cart into here so you guys can see what this market looks like. So again, a lot of like similar, these tri kind of wheel things, a lot of them fold up into compact kind of arrangements, not crazy review counts, honestly. But you can kind of see this is the budget guy here. This is the general kind of vibe, very kind of similar aesthetic on a lot of these things. And it really kind of comes down to price and functionality a little bit at that point. If we just look at the market here on Helium 10, for a golf push cart, you can start to see some of the higher level data. So again, right around $30,000 a month, depending. Obviously, some of these big dogs are doing much more than that, 250, 173, 160 here. But then a lot of these middle ground guys are doing in the 50s. So decent for the ones that are winning in the category. But I think one thing is here in terms of visual differentiation, a lot of people have created the compact element, but nothing completely stands out on this page. So going back to this, there's a couple ideas that we have. One is monster truck. So again, we're targeting a dude that, golfs on the weekends. It's what he really cares about. He gets a lot of personal fulfillment out of golf, both playing well and having cool gear that his buddies like. So if he shows up with a kick-ass cart with kind of monster truck, like bigger, beefier tires, it's much more badass than everything else that we see here. So simply changing the wheels could be a really compelling change. Another option that we may want to look at is this electronic concept. Again, this came from the retail environment, that you can literally manage your push cart with a remote, and it's got like a battery operated wheel. It's much more premium expensive, but truly innovative and not something you see a lot in the space. So need to check a little bit on that for the patent, but those are two concepts that could be pretty compelling. So why would somebody buy this? Number one, it's unique, it's ego, and it's performance. So an off-road kind of tire or an automated electronic remote control thing has really high performance, but it looks badass, it makes you feel badass, and it performs different than your standard push cart, which is the see the sameness. So the visual differentiation, again, speaks for itself. If you've got kind of a big beefy tire and or you've got an electronic thing, we can really visually represent that in the listing image. And then our monthly revenue estimate's about 40. I think this one's probably on the light end. It potentially has the ability to do more than this. But if we assume 40,000 and we plug that into the budget checker, this is kind of the range of budget that would be needed for that particular product. And then the final one here is this impact tape. Let's just kind of show you what this looks like on Amazon. So we'll go golf impact tape. And if you look here, it's like super simple tape. I mean, there's nothing fancy about this, right? Just look here real quick at some of the helium-10 data so you guys can get an idea what these guys are doing. So it's a lot smaller of a market than the other ones, but again, everyone's on a different budget. So I wanted to show something that's a little bit different. So this guy's doing 5,800, this guy's doing 8,000, this guy's doing 6,000, and then it kind of trickles off from there. So the thought is if we can get in this top three doing, between 5,000 and 8,000 a month, that could be a decent kind of low risk way for us to get into this Amazon space for the golf archetype. And really this impact tape is people that are training. They want to see where the ball is hitting the club face so that they can improve their swing. So this is something that could be used in the summer as well as in the off season. So it's got multi benefits. And again, if we look at some of these guys, these top dogs, this guy right here and these two are some of the top ones. The reviews are good. There's nothing wrong with the reviews, but it's tape, right? I think this guy looks a little bit better than the other ones. But nothing too visually appealing. People are just buying this because it's a damn sticker, right? So going back to the stage 1 filter, the concept that we have here is to use this bright gun target material. And I'll go into a gun target so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. But basically in the gun target space, there's these cool like neon colored things that when a bullet goes through the target, it changes the neon color underneath so you can see where your bullet hit. So the concept is, hey, can we create something like that on impact tape for a golf club so that it's not just this white sticky tape, but it's got like a really fluorescent color and I can really see where the marks hit. And there's nothing really like that on the market. And there's the potential for it to be high margin because stickers aren't all that expensive to create. So why would somebody buy it? Just the color and like the accuracy of the marks would be really compelling. Nothing really out there. Visual differentiation on this one's pretty easy, especially if you think about what that page looked like in terms of just to see a sameness, nothing too compelling out there in the space. So the monthly estimate on this one in terms of revenue is 6,000 when you plug that in. Budget is somewhere between like 5 and 8K that we need on this one. So we've got 3 different product ideas, somewhat completely different, that we can start to pass through this stage 1. And they're also different budget ranges. So we can start to visualize and think about product development from 3 different kind of tiers of capability and tiers of opportunity. And just real quick before I go on to the next thing, you can just kind of see what I mean by this gun target stuff. So this is what I'm talking about, is if we could create something kind of like this that really pops for the actual impact tape, that could be interesting. So basically what we want to do when we take these ideas is we want to put them into this pipeline because those 3 ideas have passed our sniff test that we want to kind of do a deeper dive. The reason that we do the stage 1 analysis, even though it takes a bit of time to do, is the time consuming stuff is when you really start digging into the data. You start looking at ROI, you start looking at dimensions, you start doing a deep dive on the keyword analysis, you start getting into sourcing where you're reaching out to factories and negotiating and getting samples. All that stuff is very time consuming and it can also be quite expensive. So we want to make sure that we're only doing those time-consuming, expensive tasks after they've passed the stage 1 filter. So in this case, we're going to throw these ideas in here. So the first one is going to be the golf travel bag. Save that one. We're also going to add the golf push cart. And then we're going to have the golf impact tape. And basically when we put them in here, this basically means that it's past stage 1. We've done all of the assessment that we have here in this filter, and it's ready for showtime. We're ready to basically throw this into ROI analysis. We're ready to do the keyword, and we're potentially ready to source this thing. So we're going to do ROI analysis and the keyword analysis next and get into what that looks like. But this will be the hub from this point moving forward in terms of how these ideas play out. And so we can track them from a product standpoint. We can do assignments. So if I've got a particular person that I need to assign a task to, some people on my team here, I could basically plug them in, tag them so they know that they've got a due date or they know they've got a task to do. So we'll come back to ClickUp later, but wanted to at least cover the stage 1 filtering. And we've now kind of processed our pipeline a little bit further, and the fun will continue to happen in the next series of videos. Let's go.